So I'm really not that scary. I know people say I am, and maybe part of that's true, but I am, like to quote Douglas Adams, mostly harmless. So before I start, how many of you are looking into getting into the security field? We got a few. How many of you would say that you're security experts but looking to find work? Okay. I'm going to cover both topics, and if I don't address all of your questions or issues, see me afterwards. I'll be here for most of the day, and I'll be happy to chat with you a little bit more. Now, Kate Maldo, I think her name, she talked about it yesterday, where she talked about communication being important in the information security field, and she's absolutely correct. I'm going to focus not only on communication, but knowledge, because those are the two core principles that you need in order to survive in the work field. Now, I've been in this business for about 20 years. I've been a software developer beforehand. I've worked for a number of large and small companies. I've reported directly to CEOs. I've been on boards. I know what it's like. So I'm going to give you a perspective from the other side of the table. And one thing that is a common misconception, at least people in the technical field, is their job is to address security risks and stop all the bad guys and so forth. And that's close, but it's not quite true. The real objective is to use knowledge and communication to mitigate business risk. That's really what you're there for, okay? Businesses face risk every day, and they've been facing risk long before computers have ever even come into the workplace. Take HEB, for example. HEB works with a lot of risks, everything from, oops, I'm pushing buttons ahead of time, everything from preventing customers from falling on the floor to making sure that the perishable food is sold within a reasonable time frame. And I used to work for Home Depot, both in the corporate and in the store level, and Home Depot had some very serious risks back in the 90s when children were killed because things fell out of their shelves. So they now take a whole new approach to it, and they address it far more seriously. If you ever go to a Home Depot and try to climb the stairs, the portable stairs that they have, well, they'll chew your ass out for it. And for good reason, because you are posing a risk to them. So I'm not going to address cyber security or information security, or call it what you will. I'm going to address business risk, and that's really your objective. If you want to survive in this field, that's what you need to do. So ISSA and the ESG research group, they did a survey late last year, and this is from the ESG research's 2016 security report, and it's quite good to see, because at least it may not be as high as we would like, but at least it's showing an upward trend where companies are starting to see that's IT security or information security. I'm going to call it Infosec just to save time. Infosec risks are becoming a big priority. It's starting to sink into a lot of companies. There's still a number of companies and a number of CEOs that just refuse to accept it, and that is just human nature, but it is seeing an upward trend. So the field is continuing to show an upward trend. So if you want to get into the business, it's a good time. Continuing on, there's a lot of good reasons why that information security is becoming a hot topic. I like the top bullet on the top left corner, attracted by a moral imperative. And the people I talk to over the years, they may not say it directly, but they like the idea that they're trying to do something good. Even if they used to, get on the wrong side of the law, at least they're trying to do something good, and you get to do something bad for something good. That's essentially what it is. And this is the majority of people in the IT security field. I'm going to cover most of these items. So we'll start off with, let's start off with the downside first. Now, like any other group, security has its downside in the business, and they're not alone. Every group, whether you talk about finance, you talk about legal, operations, facilities, I don't care what it is. Every group has a downside. Now, I know a lot of people complain about users. Okay, we know users, all right, I know all that. But what was interesting was back in last October, I had to go in for an emergency operation. In fact, I had 2 emergency operations. What had happened was my colon, it just got mucked up. I'm 53 years old. I still think I'm 18, and so I obviously overdo things. What happened during the stay at St. David's is they have the screen and they say, you know, security items, you know, don't leave your thing unattended, so forth. But what really got me about it is that the nurses there were really top-notch. And I realized they weren't interested in two-factor authentication, and I'm glad they weren't. They were worried about my health because one of the nurses found what she thought was an infection. They had it tested, they biopsy or whatever you do, and it really was the start of an infection. And the doctor said, we're glad we caught it because otherwise you would have stayed here a couple extra weeks. We may have to go in for another operation, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And we need in this business to realize if we want security not only to succeed but to thrive, we've got to reach out to them just as much as they need to reach out to us. It's a two-way street. Fine, users suck. They don't do security well. I understand that. But they do their business well. I mean, think about it. You're at 30,000 feet. Are you really going to be concerned that the pilot is more worried about two-factor authentication than flying the plane? I'm not. I want him to fly that plane and land it safely. So we in the business need to reach out to those lines of work and to help them understand what security needs. Sit in your cubicle all you want and complain. You can come here and bitch and whine about it, and that's fine, but it's not going to get done. If we want to make security succeed and, in fact, be more respected in the industry, we have to reach out to others. And the last bullet point on the left, disconnect between security and business, that's absolutely true. Because, like, for example, I can tell the CEO, you're being DDoSed, and it's just going to go over his head. He doesn't care. But if I tell the boss, if I tell the CEO that your website is inaccessible by legitimate customers and you're losing X number of dollars per day, he's going to sit up and listen. It's the same thing. But the first one he didn't understand, the second one he did. So we've got to address security in terms of the business. I know that some of you are going to disagree. I know that some of you can think, well, there's more issue, and you're probably right. But every business exists to make money and to reduce risk. That's what a business does. Businesses will not survive by losing money. And if you're there to help the business thrive, you will be viewed as important, as a critical asset. If you're not going to do anything, if you're just sit there and complain, and I will tell you on this, I've been involved in layoffs on both sides of the fence. When people come to me and they say, we got to lay off a few people, what do I have to look for? I have to look for people that, I don't care if you're a security expert, I don't care if we're going to get DDoSed, but if I don't perceive you as a valuable asset to the business, I'm sorry, you're going to have to get laid off because we may get DDoS, we may get attacked. I don't care what the reason is. We're losing money. That's a fact. And sooner or later, a business who loses enough money will go out of business, so everybody loses their job. So I know it may not seem like a nice thing to say, but it's a fact. The map you see here is from a website called cyberseek.org. It's a great website if you're interested in getting into the field and looking at the career path. I got to stop playing with this thing. What you see in the dark, the states with the dark shades are considered the highest of the states with the largest demand for security professionals, and in Texas is obviously one of them. Texas, New York, and California are considered the top three in the areas of critical infrastructure. And critical infrastructure means that infrastructure that is necessary for the survivability of the United States economy. And that can be anything from dams, water, wastewater, power, chemical facilities, industry, et cetera. Okay? So whether you are working you may be working in a video game facility, or you may be working for ERCOT, the Texas Reliability Commission, Texas is considered one of the top, and in fact, Austin is considered the top in Texas. So you are in a great city, in a great area. Dallas, I think San Antonio's second, followed by Dallas and Houston. Now, what surprises me is Florida is still listed in there. I don't know why. I grew up in South Florida. That's essentially where people go to die. If you've ever watched Seinfeld and Del Boca Vista, that is absolutely true. They really nailed it. So I don't know why Florida's up there, and it's not surprising Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware are up there considering the federal government. But Texas, California, and New York, if you like getting into critical infrastructure as I do, those are the 3 states to take into consideration. Now, I don't remember where I got this from, but I found this somewhere, but this is a great chart on people who, if you want to get into the cybersecurity field, this is the career development right here. And these little bubbles I'm going to be talking a little bit about them. My specialty is not so much as penetration testing anymore. I don't do pen testing like I used to. But I deal in physical security, I deal with operations, data centers, infrastructure, that type of thing. So if you are interested in getting into the field, you don't have to follow only one. You can follow several of them. And if you think, okay, you want to get into pen testing, for example, this is something that interests you, there's nothing wrong with changing your mind and going to something else. I graduated with a degree in computer science. My original work was for NASA at the Cape. I was working on some projects for the space shuttle. When the space shuttle exploded, well, that ended my career. And so I went back down to Boca Raton where I got involved with OS2, if any of you remember that. So this is a good guide to get you started, but you don't have to follow just one and only one of those bubbles. You can get into several areas. And like I said, as you grow older, you may want to change. You may want to get more into management, governance, that type of thing. Perfectly all right. Before I start, I don't know if any one of you have budgetary concerns, but if you want to get into the field and budget is a problem, there is something you can get hardware at a number of places. Goodwill, there's a place on 183 near Burnett. That actually sells some really good laptops. Now, they're obviously used, but I've seen a number of them. They are good. Pennies on the dollar. Discount Electronics also has one, Dell refurbished. If you are going to get into this field, especially in the technical field, you are going to need a laptop. If you can't, maybe a tower of some type, but you will need something in order to, because self-study is going to be a critical part of your career advancement. Remember, in one of the bullet points, it said that there was a lack of formal security training, and that's true, and it is also here, as well as it is nationwide. So you've got to take the initiative, and I think that's what separates the qualified from the unqualified, is those who are qualified take the initiative, they learn from their mistakes, they're never satisfied when they accomplish something. Okay, I'm done, now what do? I want to do something next. So keep this in mind, and then if you're looking for a virtual environment, Oracle VirtualBox is a great tool. I have both VirtualBox and VMware on this machine. I use them both. I love them both. They're great tools. And you can actually sometimes you can get legacy software like Windows XP. Goodwill or Discount Electronics, I believe, sells them whenever they come in. All right, I'm going to start off this. This was a great article. Now, I know the link is small, but you can have a copy of this. Vincent Liu is Know Your Pen Tester, the Novice. Now, the reason why I'm putting this up is I've interviewed a lot of candidates for IT, security, and so forth. And one of the things I will do is look and try to distinguish somebody who really knows their work versus somebody who just likes using tools. And the objective here is what Lou mentions as tool jockeys. What's happening is that security is moving into the mainstream, and so businesses are going to need to know the difference between people who claim that they know what they're doing versus people who really know what they're doing. That's my job when I am interviewing you. For example, if you were sitting across from me and you were telling me all the tools you know, Metasploit, fill in the blank, I don't care. My first question will be likely, okay, you don't have Metasploit, what are you going to do next? And that usually will catch about 80% of the people. And those who don't know start stammering and they don't, I don't know, I'd have to blah, 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 I have to figure out what I have to do next. People who know what they're doing, I don't have Metasploit, okay, I'll do this. I'll do it manually, I'll try this out. What I'm looking for is people who understand the protocol versus people who just understand the tool. The latest incident that I came across something like this, I believe was on LinkedIn. There was somebody who posted something, And he was bitching and whining that nobody's hiring him. And I looked at his profile, and he had a lot of tools. Oh, he used all these tools, but not one accomplishment. And you're going to see this theme again several times. He had not one accomplishment. And I sent him a note, and I said, well, what have you accomplished? What have you done? And he avoided the answer. He said, oh, I've done all these tools. I know how to blah, 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 blah. Okay, I don't care. What have you accomplished? And he said something that really jumped out at me. And he said, well, you know what? I don't care if they get hacked. I don't care if you lose your record. I don't care about anything. Thank you. I'll make sure I never hire you. The reason is because those who are really knowing their jobs focus on accomplishments. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for your tools. I don't give a rat's ass about the tools you used. I don't care about the operating system you used. I don't care about any of that. You want to get past me, you got to show me your accomplishments. And it's fine if you're new, if you're just coming into the field. That's fine. Everybody starts somewhere, okay? But if you're going to try to brag to me that you know all these tools, you're not impressing me. Because think about it. Look at the doctors, for example. Do you know what kind of tools they use? You know what kind of MRI scanners? Can you name them? Maybe a few of you could. My sister is an internist. She is great at her job. If you're in the emergency room and she's there, you're going to be all right. She knows her stuff. She's not an IT expert, and I know that because I always drive up to her house and have to fix every little problem. But when I was in the hospital last October, she was right there with me. She said, let's ask the doctor. You need to ask for this. You need to make sure. And she turned to me and said, that doctor knows what he's talking about. And I was comfortable with that. Okay? So if you want to succeed in this business, you need to know the underlying protocol. If you want to get into pen testing, understand TCP/IP, the stack, the difference between TCP and UDP, that type of thing. If you want to get into reverse code engineering, learn assembly language. Okay? I like Perl, I like Python, I like all those high level, but you're never going to survive in the reverse engineering business until you understand how the Intel architecture worked. I learned Intel architecture and PowerPC architecture on my own. I learned how to debug code. I played around with sample code. I experimented until I learned how it worked. You need to do the same thing. Now, I'm going to go into certifications for a little bit. The debate between certifications versus non-certs has been going on for well over a decade. I'm on the side of certifications are valuable, but I'm not an apologist for certifications. I have 3, and I have met people who had both certs and non-certs who were both qualified and unqualified. It's not the certs that are the issue. It's the person. Why do we call poor attorneys ambulance chasers, and why do we call poor doctors quacks? Well, they're certified. It has nothing to do about the cert. It has to do with the individual. If you have no interest in getting into this field, getting a cert and having it appended to your name is not going to help. A cert helps you get started. And what's going to happen, I'm going to predict, I think it's going to happen. You can see in the national and state legislature, they're getting concerned over security. Businesses are starting to ask, okay, how do I know that the person I'm going to hire is qualified? And my biggest problem with the people who are opposed to certs is not that I don't want to listen to them, but I've read article after article, and all they ever say is, well, you need experience. Well, gee, thank you, Captain Obvious. Okay? You need experience everywhere. We don't need to just hear experience. We need to hear how you're going to get into the field, what you need to do to get into the field. That's the answer. Don't just say you need experience. You know, you probably have heard in the 1800s, going into the 1900s, if somebody wanted to be a blacksmith, he would serve as an apprentice to a blacksmith master, and he would learn the trade until he got the experience. Then he became the master. It's been going on for millennia. Whoever designed the pyramids in Egypt, he was an architect. He had experience. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. We need to know what differentiates experience from non-experience. I think certifications are going to grow. You may not agree with me, and I have my issues with them, I agree. But you've got to do more than just simply submit your resume and say, I have experience, because I'm not impressed with that. I can fake getting on I can fake a certification. Yes, I can also fake a resume. So just keep that in mind. What usually helps in the certifications is how can companies independently validate your qualifications? That's the key. Okay, I don't care about your resume. You may tell me about what you claim you have, but military experience, law enforcement experience, that's usually pretty easy because you can validate that. That usually is a step up, okay? But I've worked in the private sector. Many of the managers, I don't even know if they're still alive today. So how do I got the cert because I had no way of independently validating my qualifications. And you can say, well, cert is just, you're only studying the test. Agreed, but it does show that I've had the commitment to keep up with it since 2003. Okay, so I'm not going to say yes or no on this because you've got to evaluate your own career. You've got to validate, can you independently validate your qualifications to an outside party, say a company? You can go and get a grad school degree. You can do things like that. But just remember, if you think you're going to hand in your resume to a company, say, I have qualifications, maybe a few will, but the majority won't. Here are a list of the certs, or some of the certs. The certs in bold require prior experience. So in other words, for the CISSP, the CISA, and the M, you can't just take a test and you're certified. You have to show prior experience, and that would require a manager or somebody you used to work with to confirm, yes, he's worked for me during this time. The OSCP, the CISSP, you can get the basic cert, and then there are advanced certs from there. The OSCP is a great one for pen testing. I like that better than the CEH because the OSCP does require that you have to go through actual scenarios. And a cert is not going to make you qualified. A cert is just going to give you the basic information needed to start off. You still have to show initiative. But a lot of companies like me, if I'm looking at somebody, if they have a CISSP, I will confirm if they do. I will confirm how long have you had it. I will want to see, do you have initiative in staying in this profession? I can't, yes, I know that there's no way to prove that somebody holding a cert is qualified, but considering the fact that we only have 5 senses and we can only do so much, we have to take a risk on something. The more information I have, the more independent information I have, the better it is for me and the better it is for you. So if you decide not to pursue your cert, that's fine. Just make sure that you have an independent way of validating your experience to non-security people. Remember, we may know more about security than everybody else, but we're not the ones signing the checks. Your employer's the one signing the checks, and that's what makes the big deal. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages. Some of the critics who say that you're only just taking the test just to take the cert, they're partially right. There is some truth to that. I have, in my past tests, I knew that the answer was wrong, but, well, that's what the certifying body says. Okay, well, it's good, bad, indifferent, however you want to call it, but that is a fact. Losing your certification because you forgot to provide the credits does get to be expensive. I've known people who have done that, and they regret it. It does get to be expensive. So make sure if you are getting your cert that you take the initiative and keep track of your education. If you do pursue your cert, take your time. Don't rush into it. I guarantee if you rush into it, I failed my first CISSP one, because I rushed into it, and I regret it. Take your time, know when you're ready to do it. If you are looking for classes, I am going to recommend 3 people, Doug Landau, Vern Williams, and Dave Gray. They're friends of mine. I've known them for a long time. They will not just do a boot camp and just get from one to the other. You take your test from these, you take your classes from these people, you will learn a lot. They are very smart in this business. They're well respected. Doug Landau has written a book on risk assessments. He will be teaching a class here in Austin, I believe in May, late May, if I remember correctly. If you are now, if you want to get into if you don't have to go for your CISSP, but if you want to get an introduction to security, these are the guys you should, I highly recommend them. They are really that good. Make sure you keep track of all your CPEs. Now, what you're doing right here, right now, is you're attending a conference. There are a number of other conferences coming up. B-Sides is coming up. ISC² is going to have their international conference coming up in late September. There's ISSA will be hosting Initech. We'll be doing a security track on that. So as you pursue your skill set, you want to try to improve your skill set, you've got to get out, you've got to network, you've got to go to these conferences. Do a capture the flag. If you don't know how to do that, ask somebody if you can sit down next to them and see them doing a capture the flag. Learn from these experiences. Okay, now when you want to start on your career, I'm going to give you some steps. The first one, this is not a requirement, but it is so helpful. Find a mentor. Find somebody who you know is experienced in this field, can give you valuable advice. I've had mentors for a number of years on other things, and I wish I had somebody in the security field because I think I would have learned things a lot faster. It's always better if you want, like for example, if you want to go into penetration testing, it's not required, but it's better to find somebody who is a professional pen tester because they're going to give you advice that you probably will not find in a book or in a podcast or anything else. Learn from that person, seek their counsel, let them assess you. Let them do a risk assessment on you and be prepared for criticism. We always say, oh yeah, you can criticize me, and then when they tell you, we sort of take it personally. We tend to look at ourselves better than we actually are. So look for a mentor, find somebody here, find somebody, I've mentored many people myself. Like I said, I do infrastructure. I'm sort of out of the scope on pen testing now, not like I used to be. But just be aware. Find a mentor, and I think your career will do much better. Second thing you need to do is create a plan. Okay, you want to get into the field, but you don't know where to start. You don't know what you want to do yet. That's fine. But you need to create a plan because with all these conferences coming up, are you really planning to spend money for every single one, for every single group? That's going to cost a lot of money, plus travel time and so forth. Creating a plan, I think, will help you save money. It will direct your attention to specific resources that are applicable to where you want to go. Now, if you don't know where you want to start, by all means, that's fine. Just say, for example, 2 years from now, I know what I'll identify what I want to do, and then I'll pursue it. I used to be in the high-tech field. I used to do kernel and device driver software development. I used to do kernel extensions and kernel debugging, that type of thing, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. I had a blast. I got tired of it after a while, so I wanted to change, and so now I'm more on the governance end. So creating a plan, make sure if you are going to go for certifications, factor those in, decide what you want to do, and then evaluate that over a period of time. If you get a mentor, talk to your mentor about it, see is it a good idea. Maybe they'll tell you, focus on this one instead. But without a plan, it's almost a certainty you're just going to be flailing all around, going to every conference, going to every meeting, and I think you're going to end up wasting money. A plan does help, and you don't have to have a formal Cooper plan like from the Big Bang Theory. You have like the roommate agreement, but just at least have something in mind that you know what you want to do. Okay, education. The survey that you saw earlier said that there's a lack of education available, and they're partially right. I think it exists. You just have to look for it. I have 3 sites: Coursera, Cyber IT, and Bob Sturt University. They do provide some type of courses online. They are free. You would pay to get a degree or certification, but you can still take it. There are also tools available on LinkedIn. I think MIT offers it, free training. There's a number of other resources available. ACC is focusing more on cybersecurity. There are associate's degree in networking and in security, so you can take a look there. UT and St. Edwards does have a plan. UT actually has a security group, ISSW.io. They meet every Wednesday. They go into high-tech areas. They meet at UT, and it's open to the public, so if you want to go there, if you can find a parking space, yeah, go ahead. Another great resource is the Austin Public Library. Believe it or not, APL has a number of books, high-tech, and I believe security books, and they have an online card catalog so you can take a look and see if there's anything interesting. If you live in the city, everybody has free access to APL. If you don't live in the city, there are agreements with the neighboring cities that you can get a library card. Or you just go down their downtown office. They're open on Sundays. Pull a book from the shelves and see if that'll help you. There's a company called Excellent. Bob Cadenhead is, he's not the CEO, but he's one of the, he's a member of ISSA. They're pursuing more security high-tech certs. If you have anything in mind, you can reach out to him. He'll help you out. And there are also these conferences. Like I said, B-Sides is coming up on the 4th and 5th. You have Initech, you have LastCon coming up, which is a application security conference. And we are also trying to work out, I don't know if you ever remember a conference called ConSec. That's sort of like the granddaddy of security conferences. They're doing more on disaster recovery. It's not been finalized yet, but we're trying to get that done, hopefully over the summer. Okay, this is an important slide for those of you who want to get into the field. Number one, there is a top 10 resources for being cyber secure. That's the link. I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find it. The reason is because it includes Brian Krebs and Bruce Schneier, two of the security gods in the world. If you want to get in the business, make sure you read their articles, you learn from them. There's also podcasts. Now, these are the podcasts I listen to, but these are not the only security podcasts. Security Now is a weekly one. It's usually 2 hours. Breaking Down Security, one of the people, they're here locally, Brian Betcher, great guy, very knowledgeable. This is Chris Hagnegi, socialengineer.org. The SANS Internet Storm Center is a daily one, about 6 minutes long and down the security rabbit hole. By all means, there's a variety of podcasts on a variety of topics. If you should be reading Brian Krebs and Bruce Schneier. I think that's a must. They're great. They're great reference points. It helps you understand the business a lot better. Okay, volunteering. Another factor that I'm going to look at if I'm interviewing you is what type of volunteer work you do. Okay. You may say, well, what does volunteering have to do? Well, it shows initiative. It shows you can handle projects. It shows you can lead on things. It shows that if there's a problem and you come in as a problem solver, these are things that businesses love, okay? You don't have to volunteer for a security group, but that helps. But if you, for example, if you are a security expert, go to your church, your kid's classroom, whatever the case may be, and offer to help on security topics. I'll give you a personal example. There's a group called the Launchpad Job Club. I'm going to be mentioning that in a little bit. I had trouble giving out business cards. You know, people, okay, he's in security, so what? And this was like in 2001. I created on the back of my card the top 10 things you should be doing to make yourself more secure online. I couldn't hand them out fast enough. People wanted them. They were just going after them. And I actually got an award for the most innovative job seeker. These things help. Get your name out there. Get your name out there. Make sure you do that. Volunteering is one great way, okay? Because if you put that on your resume and I see that you volunteer and I confirm it's true, that shows me you're taking the initiative on things. That means if I have a problem and maybe nobody else can help it, you step up to it and you can solve it. Or maybe if you can't solve it per se, but you know what the problem is, that's an asset to my business. That's going to give you credit over the other guy who actually may have more skills than you, but just doesn't want to help. Because people can learn new things. I want initiative. I want people who are going to get out of their cubicles and get things done. That's what you have to do in a business. Networking, you're doing it right now. It's the #1 way to find a job today. especially as you go higher up the corporate food chain. Do not think that job websites are your best bet. That's bullshit. Repeat, bullshit. If you think it is, go back to HEB and be a bag boy. I don't care. Because this is the #1 way to get involved. I want to see an initiative from you that you are interested in this profession. I can take you to training. You can learn new things. But if you really don't care and you really don't get involved, all right, why am I spending money to hire you? Remember, you're working for my company for my benefit. I'm exchanging a salary in exchange for your knowledge. That's why knowledge and communication are the two most critical ones. If you're out there helping my business, helping people be more secure, you're going to make mistakes, they're going to make mistakes. I respect mistakes. But integrity and initiative are everything in this business. There were times I had to ask myself an ethical question is, do I really want to do this? It's unethical, but do I really want to do this? And I've lost my job because of it. But I'm glad I did. Because I don't want my name associated with somebody who's unethical. That is critical. And don't think because you just, that's all right, I'll cheat on this, that's all right. Word does get around thanks to social media. Remember, HR, they also network with their groups. Legal, they do the same thing. So you may think, just do it, nobody. Oh, believe me, word gets around. Again, note accomplishments. Okay? I've got to try to finish before the time. And respect the NDA. I will intentionally try to see if I can get you to spill out the NDA. Not in actual words, but let's say, for example, that second bullet point. I saved the company because it sucked. The security sucked. Everybody sucks. Everything sucks. Sucks. Okay, thank you. I don't want you. Why? Because if you're willing to blab about your previous company, you're going to blab about me. That is a risk to me. I do not want that. You may be right, but I do not want that risk. Respect the NDA. You may not like it, but is it worth losing your job over? No. If they are the ones that really suck at it, sooner or later, they're going to pay the price. Anytime I have an issue with my boss, I will send an email so I can validate that what I said was true. Okay? Did you manage any teams? Were you given more responsibility? Those are things I'm looking for. There was a book called How Do You Move Mount Fuji? And the types of questions that they were asking in the book, they didn't want answers. They want to see how your thought process worked. Okay, how would you move Mount Fuji from one place to another? Well, you break it up into sections and you do this and this and this. They want to see how your thought process operates. They know you may not have the answer. Interviews. I love this one because it is so true. And it's anybody in IT. And the last one, when it says, shut the F up. And how do I know? Because I violated it myself. It did cost me a job in an interview because I did talk too much. Okay? The God complex. I don't care if you're the best pen tester in the world. If you are not willing to help my business, you're no value to me. Because think about it. If I am forced to lay somebody off, would I want the best pen tester in the world but just doesn't do anything or doesn't communicate? Or do I want the fourth best pen tester who can learn more but is more, who communicates a lot more, who addresses the business risks a lot more? I want that guy. And I don't care, you can criticize me all you want. That is a fact. They may be wrong, but I'll guarantee you that is their perception. General advice, never, ever, 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 ever pay for a recruiter. If you do, you're going to get screwed. I did that a long time ago, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, okay? Use a number of open source, because many of the ones that you pay will also be on these. What they do is they go out into various companies and they look in their career sites, okay? If you have a Facebook or a LinkedIn account, get recommendations. That goes very far. In fact, LinkedIn will say you should get at minimum 5 recommendations. I think 7's better, but recommendations go far. This is an example. Back in March, I got this email from somebody that was for a CISO job in Michigan. Well, I went to the Michigan website, and yes, it was there. But what these companies will do, and here's the problem. When you're looking for work, especially if you have a family to feed, I understand that risk is high. That risk is very high. So you have to go public. These guys will try to take advantage of you. And what they do is they'll look for you, and they'll say, oh, how much salary do you make? Or they might even ask for part of your Social Security number. We all know never do that, but they will ask. And this guy called me up, and you know what he said? He said, I need your salary. Why? This is his exact answer, because that tells me if you're qualified. All right, I make $2.5 million a year. Thank you. Okay, true, that's what he really said. You do not need to give a salary this early. If they're doing it, be suspicious, because what they'll do is they're not working for Michigan in this case. They're going to submit it to Michigan, and the reason why it's always a contract job is because Michigan say, well, we're looking for somebody permanent. Okay, we'll give you somebody just temporary till you fill the void. It may not even be 12 months. It could be 6 weeks. So I'm always wary of these. Just be careful. Resume, pretty much. You know what a lot of people failed to do in the last bullet point? Read that. I have my resume on my phone. If I meet you, oh, I could use you. Oh, here, it's on my phone. What's your email address? Bam, it's gone. Keep it on your phone, ready to go. Now, if you want to have multiple resumes, one for accomplishments and one for the technical ones for another techie, by all means do it. Put it on your damn phone. I met people in Home Depot. I met people out in parks, all sorts of things. I always have a resume ready. This one is very politically correct, and I am not a politically correct person, but if you want to survive and thrive, this is what you got to do. Rule number 1, this is what you got to do. Rule number 2, if you disagree, refer back to rule number 1. These are the people who go out and thrive. I'm not going to say any more on that. Now, respect of authority, secrecy policies, and so forth, that's why I check your NDA. You may disagree with it, but there are reasons why companies have to do what they do. It may not be that security doesn't suck. They may not have the money. They may be constrained by law. There could be 1,000 valid reasons. I have to deal with this all the time where IT people don't want to do proper change management. They hate it. But that doesn't tell me, when I'm auditing, was this account created legitimately, or was this done as part of an attack? I don't know that. And it makes my work harder, and then I may have to cancel an account that does a valid job. I get this all the time. Yes, change management is a pain in the ass, but it's very valuable to tell me, is this a legitimate change? Launchpad Job Club you should be checking out. Indeed representatives meet there. They will help you in your job searches. I will be happy to give a copy of this to anybody. Workforce Solutions is another good one. There are also numerous trainings for veterans. Look them up. There are here in Austin. I have mentored many veterans. I'm happy to do so for veterans. With the sacrifice you guys made, this is the least I can do. Local groups. On the bottom right corner, austinissa.org. I am the president of the chapter. We have a calendar of what's going on in the area. Many of these other local groups, network with them. HTCIA, for example, deals with forensics. ISACA is with audit, and HIMSS, if you want to get into the medical field, you need to be going to the HIMSS meeting. They are not technical people. They are in the healthcare field. We are working with the Texas legislature to help improve their policies, creating their policies. So I'm running a little late. Are there any questions? Okay. Yes? Most of the people won't even go past page 1. Now, you bring up a great point. If you ask 5 people How many pages? You'll get 9 different answers. I usually recommend 1 page because I'm only going to read the first half. And if I'm interested in you, I'll go down. And if I want more, then I can ask for more. I know people who have 4 pages. You know, but if you're starting off, a 1 page should be all right. Yes?
So it's kind of following along with what you were saying. A lot of these will also go through a search engine. So if somebody's resume doesn't have whatever buzzword they're looking for, they'll get to that as well.
True. And that's why you should also have a LinkedIn page, because you can add those buzzwords there. They will search on LinkedIn as well. In fact, I think resumes are being phased out. Slowly, but they are being phased out. And they will look on your Facebook page too. So if you, they will check for your comments there. Yes?
What would you recommend for individuals that have, they've been working in a different field, but they are transitioning to the cybersecurity field?
But just be honest and say, note your accomplishments in that field. I used to do software development, and I noted those accomplishments there when I started getting into the field. And, you know, one important thing to remember is just because the companies are desperate looking for people, that doesn't mean they're going to hire you. They will do without if necessary. They want to make sure that the person they hire is reliable and can get the job done. I'm here for most of the day. You're welcome to talk to me. Thank you very much.